lot of folks are users of PTS software, but for those that don't, we'll give a little bit of history about PTS, what we do, what our mission is. And then that's going to roll a little bit into the challenges we have been trying to solve for the last few years and where this all-in-one portal is coming from and why it was developed and why we think it's critical for the future path of our software. And then we're going to have a nice demo by Dan and Howie. They're going to walk through the portal, and then Howie's going to get a little bit of a roadmap of where we're going and how this is really a platform for the future of everything we do at PTS. It's the starting or the base level of the future development of our software, and it's critical for all of our customers and how you manage your users and your devices, your IoT systems, whatever it may be that's PTS is powering. It's all going to be managed within this portal, and you'll have visibility of everything in this portal. So a little bit of the history first. For those that don't know, PTS has two main products. One, TracerPlus, the other is ClearStream. Next slide here. So TracerPlus is really been around for around 25 plus years. It started out as Tracer on the Palm OS, and it's a user configurable data collection tool. The idea behind it is, it bridges the gap between off-the-shelf software and custom software. So it fits nicely for folks that have specific needs that maybe there isn't an off-the-shelf package for, or they have specific processes that they have that they want to follow that set them as unique and define their company or critical to how they do business. We can give them software that is at the price point of off-the-shelf, but with the flexibility of customization. And then the other thing we want to always mention with our software is it's backwards compatible and it's not developer dependent. So it's configurable. So it can be configured by PTS or by our partners or by the end user. So you're not relying on developers and their code bases, and you don't have to do upgrades to your code every 6 months to a year for iOS and Android. We take care of that for you, and you really can just concentrate on your processes and improving the applications that you have developed with TracerPlus. Another thing that's kind of unique about the way we run our software and TracerPlus is that it utilizes the next gen or the cutting edge data collection technologies and devices. So we started out with barcode many moons ago on the Palm OS, and it's progressed nicely over the years into iOS and Android. Now we do RFID, NFC. We still support barcode, and we can use those technologies side by side. But when we think about TracerPlus and the PTS ecosystem, TracerPlus is our mobile software that has a user interface and requires an end user to do data collection. The next piece of software is ClearStream. That was developed, I think, around 14 years ago. Just like TracerPlus, it's constantly evolving, constantly be developed. You see in this PowerPoint slide the ATR 7000 by Zebra that offers RTLS mapping, and we can give directionality injections into a database using Zebra APIs. But what sets ClearStream apart is it's agnostic to hardware. It's again configurable, and practically anyone can set it up and use it. If you can read a manual, you could set up ClearStream and start using fixed IoT, RFID. It supports BLE now, and it also does image capture through barcodes. Anyway, so these two packages have existed for a number of years, and we also have data connectivity tools. So traditionally, before the PTS Cloud, which is on the right-hand side of the slide, was developed, we relied on our end users to provide a database or an ERP system for us to connect to. And that was accomplished, these connections were accomplished through our TracerPlus Connect product. We also always offered, and we still offer to this day, the ability to simply export a flat file of any type, CSV, whatever you want to do. We can get that out of the device, out of the software, and then send it to a pre-existing database at the most basic point. But 7 years ago, we heard from our customers that they were just having a tough time getting these applications platformed, the data stored in a centralized cloud location. They had to work with their engineers to create something on an AWS, or maybe it was a homegrown SQL application that they were trying to do. So we developed what we call the PTS Cloud, which is a data depository for RFID and barcode data. And it also has reporting and all this other stuff that can be developed on top of it. And that's where you're going to see a lot of the evolution of where PTS goes over the coming years as this cloud develops and we gain more and more customers. And another new feature of the cloud, which I think developers are really excited about. And again, we don't specifically sell developers. We're trying to, give them a tool that they don't have to support all day long. But the RIA RESTful API is something we released around a year ago. It's kind of behind the scenes in our cloud, but it makes it really simple for you to connect this data into your pre-existing systems. So you don't have to go out and buy a new RFID package to do asset tracking. You can use your current asset tracking system and integrate this data into it. And we're connecting to all sorts of systems with RIA now. That's currently behind the scenes. And in the new all-in-one platform, it's going to be a Rev 2 of the platform where RIA is more exposed to our end users, so they can really get in there and start doing what they do and connecting this data that's critical to their business to their pre-existing systems. Next slide, Hal. So we have the PTS cloud, we have RIA, we have what we see here is GS1, Count Quick, we have management portals. We've been doing more and more in our cloud. And maybe we've been a little lazy, or maybe it's just we've been more efficient, and we've been releasing a lot of these portals. And for our resellers and for our internal users and even for our bigger customers, it's been a kind of, we have this ecosystem, but everything is on a different platform. It's a different login. It's just a little bit of a headache to manage. Even for us on the development side, we have to worry about, a lot of different clouds right now. So the all-in-one platform is going to take all of these things, the next slide, Howie, and put them into one portal, one platform, make it really easy for you to manage your users, see basic analytics of data being used. You're going to be able to, for resellers, you're going to see your customers, their activity, if they're using the application, how many licenses they have, when their renewals are up. I don't want to steal their thunder, but Howie and Dan are going to do a really cool demo on what we have in our Rev 1, new reporting tools that we're making available to our customers. And this is all included for a normal TracerPlus SaaS user or a ClearStream SaaS user. You're going to have access to this. And even our perpetual customers will eventually have access to this as we progress. The data management or their clients will be managed in it regardless. Without a cloud connectivity, we can't do too much in analytics. But anyway, with that being said, I'll turn it over to Howie and Dan for what should be an amazing demo.
All right, Brad, I think that was me taking over next. Thanks for that intro. Thanks for setting the bar so high. I feel a little bit of pressure here. So let me share my screen. So this screenshot here is just a holding pattern for the dashboard, but I'll be going through this now. And just to touch on some of the stuff Brad was talking about, our cloud architecture has been around for a while, 2018, I think, officially more publicly available 2019. And architecturally, it's all very similar among different clouds, whether it's a product cloud or a customer cloud, whether it's dedicated server or maybe a shared server. Any of those environments were very good with our previous architecture, but one thing it didn't have was that common authentication and common sign-in and common user base among products, because we said, well, this is our TracerPlus cloud and this is our ClearStream cloud. So we got away with that for a while because a lot of our customers didn't span across products, and that allowed it to mask it a little bit. But as our customers have been sharing between different systems, we have ClearStream and TracerPlus users now, that has allowed or kind of pointed to this idea that we should be on a common platform. It also makes security implementations and security updates more reasonable to deploy, because sometimes you want a rapid response on some of those security scenarios that come up, and that's certainly become a increasing interest for most of our customers. Interest being requirement in most cases. So anyway, so we combined all that into one portal where you're now navigating among the multiple products you might have with us in the same platform. You're managing users, and users can exist in both or more, many products. So the first thing you'll see presented is our login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And some of this to our existing users will look familiar, at least roughly familiar. The UI has certainly gotten a refresh. There's some navigation for screen real estate, and here's your typical menu options. But the first thing we did targeted was what the first view was. What what is our user going to see first? So depending on who you are as a user, you're going to want to see different things. But from the perspective of even an internal account manager or someone who's managing multiple accounts, they might want to see different things about their tasks. Who do I have in my accounts that are expiring soon, and in this case 30 days or maybe 60 days. Who do I see actively logged in here? As we're going through, you can see that now if I have people out on the work floor, I can see that they're actively logging in and interacting with the system. I can go further back in time and see things over the last 30 days or some custom time range. Those are all the things. Or maybe I just want to see a sort of summary view of all my accounts. These can also be filtered by, of course, who you are as a rep versus a single user versus, single account manager versus single user. Any of those are options. And the other thing we did that I thought was pretty neat was made these sort of slidable. We call these cards. So these cards are all individually built and designed by our design team. And there's a bunch of ideas we have for V2 type releases, but these are the ones that are being released now. And depending on who you are, you may want to see active logins as your sort of primary view here, right? Or I can shrink it down and maybe my expiring soon is most important. So I can bring it up and move it around and, anything like that.
Sorry to jump in, Dan. One thing actually I'd like to mention here is I was just sending in some login requests. That's why you see some devices logging in. But another thing to note is actually that the context change based on the type of user. So actually trial users to the system will get some different cards for, first,
right. Yep.
First steps and how to start getting started with TracerPlus in the PTS portal. This is just, sorry, I just want to make a mention of that, as well as I was sending in some login requests to the portal there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so that was kind of my point I didn't touch on quite enough, is that this dashboard is user context sensitive. So one of the things we wanted to answer was a trial user. A trial user comes in, he's going to want to see different things on the dashboard than maybe a veteran user, right? We have some 25-year-old users or 25 years with us users that don't necessarily need the YouTube links for tutorials, but that first-time trial user might benefit from that. So, those are some of the cards available. I'm currently logged in as sort of an account manager here, so you're seeing more of a context in that perspective. But that's the dashboard that we did spend a lot of time on. Some of these others will be more familiar where you can go in and manage your organization. But one of the things you'll notice is that if you were an existing customer with us and you had ClearStream licenses and TracerPlus licenses, they were managed in different places. Now these are all managed here, where here you can see my account is PTS, so I have 50 ClearStream licenses, 10 of GS1, and whatever that might be. And you can manage these. You can monitor your expirations and make sure that your contract's not up for renewal, or process that however you need. And then the other thing I think was really useful and by popular request was managing your user licenses. It used to be that you'd go into each individual user and assign them a TracerPlus license on or off, sort of. We took some great feedback from both our internal community and our customer community that indicated, hey, that's great, but we really want to see a list of all of our users in our account and what products they're assigned to. And I want to be able to just sort of mass assign them, right? So I can see this is actively counting down, and eventually I'm going to exceed my available licenses. And now I know I either need to get more licenses or I need to manage that somehow. So this is really managed at the user level. You'll see that these device or usernames are actually devices, readers in this case. So I can go further down for users. And I can assign, Daniel Thomas to be a TP subscription, and you'll see that this then deducts, right? So I go in here and then I go ahead and save, and I've now just sort of managed my licenses across all users. This was especially useful for customers who had a lot of temp workers or workers in and out of the system. Maybe they have a quarterly inventory that required a mass influx of users. This tool is hopeful, or at least I'm hopeful that this will make that a lot easier to assign and unassign and sort of move licenses around. So that was one new addition. If you are in a role that does manage multiple accounts, you can actually view all of your accounts in a tree view. This is new to this release, and this tree view is organized by the account level. There's a future option talked about filtering by by available products or assigned products. But you can see here that PTS, maybe Evergreen, this is demo data, by the way, so I'm not super familiar with some of these names, but Evergreen Enterprises could be a reseller, and in that they have, looks like, a lot of users, right, or a lot of sub accounts. So I could even switch into this and see some information and see that they have 10,000 licenses of TracerPlus. So I can, I can go in and navigate through all that. So this tree view is new. The view organizations, I think has been in existence for a while. I don't know if people use it a lot, but this tree view, we're hopeful is going to be helpful for a lot of people. And then, just like always, you can view the users in your current system. Your current account. So here is the users that are among PTS, and we broke it out by either, RFID reader devices and or users. And then the other thing, again, if you are managing multiple accounts, you can switch your, what we call a working account. You can switch your working account to be, some other, maybe a reseller, to see how they're performing in the reporting area, which I'm going to show in about a minute. So let's see, North Star Industries. So if I do that, all of a sudden you can see that North Star Industries only has one user, but if I look at my org tree, I can see there are a fair number of accounts here. And then I can even switch into any one of these accounts and see what their activity might look like, right? So here they're using GS1 Verify. They have just one license. Anything navigating that tree is pretty nice. So again, let me go back to my PTS account so I can show you some of the reporting. So that, again, has had a nice repolish on the look and feel, but the general behavior of that has been pretty maintained throughout. But if I go in here to Anna's email address, I can see specifically that she's assigned to TracerPlus. If I needed to, I could unassign her from that, or I could assign her to anything else that's available to me. So that, like I said, that's had a nice refresh, and functionality wise, I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback on that. One of the big ones that everybody has been asking for, including internal folks, is better reporting. So we always did a very good job at collecting data. As TracerPlus and ClearStream indicated in our history, we're very good at collecting data. So we've always had this system stats captured every day indicating trends over time and things like that. And we've had a few reports that were mostly internal reports. The overwhelming request was to make that more available to either our reseller community or even our end users who might want to see activity over time and things like that. So here are some of the reports we're working on. This is one of the last steps in our release cycle, where we're finalizing some of these reports and really polishing them. But I did want to give kind of an early view. So some of these are alerts indicating expirations coming up, or maybe they should have already been marked as expired. In the current data sets, you can see again a tree view with total licenses issued per account in that tree view. You can get that same dashboard view with expiring soon type accounts. But one of the more interesting was metrics. So a lot of people wanted to see metrics over time. How many licenses did I sell last month versus this month? Last year versus this year, those kind of things. So we actually developed or devoted a fair amount of time to building a report engine to make these more accessible and more definable. So for example, here is just an overall accounts trend over time. So if I wanted to see what last year looked like, beginning to end of year, I could do that, or I could group it monthly if I wanted to and see what happened over that period of time. So those are the kind of things we did there. If I wanted to drill deeper into the actual products, I could do that too, right? So if I want to show all of our products, I can get a breakdown here, and I can break it out by whatever periods I wanted to do. I kind of find the quarterly one would be nice. But you can see that by product, or again, I can drill into single products, or whatever you might want. And again, this would all be context sensitive to whoever's using this report. So far, every report I've shown you is expected to be publicly available, so the resellers or end users would have access to that. One of the other ones that was really interesting was the license trends. So how many licenses do I have out in circulation, and how many did I have at the beginning of the year versus the end of the year? Again, I like that quarterly view. I would make the case to make this the default, but we'll see if we can do that. So here's the numbers, and it does drill down. Looks like we're doing some negative trending calculations here, which is good. Testing. That's the licenses. And then the other one that was a big request was seeing activity, logins, and data capture. That was a big request. So we included 2 default reports that allow login tracking by account. So broadly, any PTS customer, which is pretty much everybody, has logged in, 63,000 times last year, 71,000 times this year. Highland specifically has logged in 74 and 83. So those are the kind of drill down and drill up numbers we've accumulated. Specific to our end users, we did also include user logins. So if you wanted to see your specific users in your account logging in, you could see that. I'm building a pretty extensive report here for every PTS user, so this might take a second. But you can see here's a list of all my PTS users plus the sub users. If I wanted to drill this down into let's say, oops, accidentally logged out, sorry. Into one of our resellers, I could show that too, just to show you how the how the isolation of the data works a little nicer. What was my account? Was it North Star or something?
That was when you were looking at before.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not familiar with these names.
You have a typo there.
Yeah, no, I see it. Let's see here. North Star Industries. So if I go in there and I'm setting my working account, I'm still really a member of PTS, but I'm working inside the North Star. So if I wanted to see user logins within North Star, I could do that through this working account selection. I'll just let this build for my assigned account first. So this is still building the PTS metrics data. But if I go into my working account, you should see these numbers kind of drastically reduce, right? So these are showing just North Star's numbers. So it does give you some flexibility in what you're reporting. And then classic data export, if you're an Excel junkie and you want to see this data in Excel, that's available too. Again, the date ranges are all selectable with some some kind of shortcut periods here. The other one that was really requested quite a bit was data usage. So as our clouds have expanded, a lot more customers are taking advantage of our available clouds for their specific data. They've also wanted to see trends of usage. So how much data are they collecting in a quarterly basis, weekly basis by user? Those are some of the things we're working on. So for example, here, North Star has made 76 data requests, back here, and 100, in the last month of December. If I group this by quarterly, it'll just roll that up a little bit differently. But you can track these trends over time. So you can see how much of, how much are you using the cloud? And we're seeing just a ton of activity with that. At some future release, we are expecting to capture raw TracerPlus transactions. So how many singular barcode scans did you do with or without the PTS cloud? That's kind of a goal. This data is currently the PTS cloud interaction. So we have a good percentage of our users using PTS cloud. So these numbers are pretty good, but I'd love to see that expanded to, how many raw tag reads did ClearStream get? Things like that. Those are kind of some of the future things. So yeah, the reports I'm expecting to get a lot of feedback on, maybe some requests. We intentionally developed this to be pretty flexible so that we can accumulate different reports for different requests, and even custom reports per account might be an option. Those are the things we're looking at. So in a nutshell, this is kind of our portal dashboard. Hoping to release soon. Keep your ears out for that. And then we should have the floor open for questions, Howie, too, right? So just make sure you keep.
Yeah, at the end of there's some coming over. Well, at the end of the webinar, we'll have a question period, if that's okay for everyone. And Dan, I just want to mention to you, actually, if you could show the kind of product-to-product navigation as it's intended from the kind of user profile menu up in the top right of the portal.
Oh,
show
sure.
how
Yeah,
kind
right,
of count quick and. It's
right.
Just, so you don't have to go into those. Yeah, just show it the kind of the.
Right. So one of the other things we wanted to do was we wanted a little bit of separation of church and state between the admin center, what we call the admin center for managing your licenses and managing your subscriptions. Typically, what an account manager might do versus a day-to-day user who might want access to just the data, but doesn't really need to be managing and shouldn't even have the access to managing users and things like that. So what we did was we created what we call profiles. And these profiles are role specific, and you can switch in and out of those profiles. So for example, I could switch into this profile that's more branded towards a product, like a demo app in this case, and it would move you into a different, into a different view of the same portal. So that's a good point. So if you are a GS1 user, GS1 Verify, or Account Quick user, or a branded customer cloud, your option to jump into your data cloud would be here, and it would be a bit segmented from your user management. That's been a really common request because, managers and administrators don't necessarily want their day-to-day users in and out of the account licenses and access to certain things. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Howie, because I did mean to mention
Yeah,
that.
right. Each product that you have in your account will have, for that user, will have access to the different products there. So it's easily accessible and it's dynamic to your account. So yeah, good.
Yeah, behind the scenes, really what we're doing is just sort of controlling the access to the different menu options. So one of the things I didn't mention, because it's kind of behind the scenes, but we really revamped the role-based privileges, whereas before we had 5 or 6 maybe statically defined roles, and in a few cases we would make a custom role for a customer to satisfy a certain requirement. But what we did instead was made the roles dynamically assignable now. With the privileges attached to that role. So if we needed a new role that was sort of in between a restricted user and a power user, something kind of custom in between, we can now do that very dynamically by just creating a new role and giving it a name and assigning the privileges. So that's a little bit less sexy because it's not very visible to see, but it is a nice feature because now we can kind of control those roles in a very flexible way. I don't know anything else, Brad. I don't know if Brad had any other things he wanted to see, but that I didn't want to go too deep because I know we only have an hour.
I think it's just important everybody know this is where you're going to enter the TracerPlus system, whether a PTS system, whether a trial user or an account admin, or if you're a cloud user, you can come in this way as well. Also, just the differentiation, the PTS cloud is actually your own private area designed by you, of how you're collecting your data, where your data is stored, and where it's going after it's stored. And that's a little bit of what Howie's going to talk about next, was with the evolution of this product. Again, we have the framework now in place to start putting in a lot of powerful stuff. RTLS mapping will end up in here shortly. You already have access to it in here, but you'll be able to define your maps in a more, in this area versus having to step out. But with that said, I guess, Howie, why don't you take over and show us what's next?
That's a good segue to Howie, because from our side, the key takeaway to this is a platform we can very easily build on and expand on with either custom data or even defining those integrations that Howie's going to show in a minute with the RIA interface. So those are coming soon kind of scenario, but we needed this platform to be able to offer those in a reasonable way. So I think jumping over to you, Howie, probably makes sense now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Let me make myself the presenter here and make sure my screen's back up for you guys. Okay. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us. Just to mention, because I do see some questions popping up again, we'll have a question period at the end here, and all three of us can answer those questions for you. But I kind of wanted to go through, after Brad talked about kind of how things have evolved up to this point, and then Dan showing us the new portal that we're developing and releasing soon to kind of pull all these products together underneath a unified cloud platform. I wanted to talk a little bit about how we kind of bring that forward from here. And talk about where the PTS cloud is going with some of our upcoming projects after the release of the new portal. And I thought I'd start today talking a little bit about RIA because it's going to be the engine kind of that drives the PTS cloud going forward. Now, it's a product we've had around for a little while. Brad had mentioned it as our data syncing tool to start, but I did want to just kind of go over it just a little bit again, just to bring people up that may not be familiar with it up to speed, and then how we're going to utilize that to kind of grow the PTS cloud going forward. So again, like Brad mentioned, the RIA service is a RESTful API. Right now, it's a configurable API that we can spin up for our PTS cloud customers. And really, it defines configurable endpoints for the PTS cloud objects that we've worked with to put together for our customers. So if you have a PTS cloud that's maybe collecting inventory and you want to hook that PTS cloud up to a third-party system, we would spin up a RIA endpoints to the PTS cloud so that you can get the data in and out of the PTS cloud into those other systems. It's also actually the engine used behind the scenes for our edge products, TracerPlus and ClearStream, to get the data in and out of the PTS cloud from those products. So like Brad had mentioned, TracerPlus and ClearStream both feed the PTS cloud with that edge data, the mobile worker data collected from the handhelds and designed by TracerPlus desktop, and then the data that's collected by ClearStream on passive fixed RFID and BLE gateways and things like that. That equipment feeds that data, and actually right now goes through our RIA endpoints. And it's actually that spot where the records are accumulated and things like that to show you the reporting in the new PTS cloud side for that data usage. So we're actually calculating all of those, or accumulating all the record movement that's made behind the scenes and showing it in the report that Dan had brought up in the reporting section of the new portal. So again, the RIA endpoint is really just a configurable kind of API that we have for our PTS clouds to get the data in and out of the clouds. Where it lives in the current ecosystem is kind of right in the middle with the PTS cloud. So this diagram here just really shows you in the middle the PTS cloud with its RIA interfaces coming from our edge products, TracerPlus and ClearStream, which are collecting BLE, RFID, barcode, and NFC data. That's feeding data into the PTS cloud. And then again, RIA is used for getting data out of the cloud into other third-party services. So a lot of the PTS clouds that we've spun up, they're not the full package end-to-end solution. They can be, and they are in a lot of situations, but the data that's in there, a lot of our customers want to get out into something else. So RIA allows them to do that. It's an easy-to-use, secure platform for getting data through the API in and out of the PTS cloud. Just to briefly touch on the PTS cloud as it is now for our customers, it's a service again that we provide that we'll spin up for our customers, and it's really customized exactly to what type of data our customers want to collect within our cloud. So like I mentioned before, it might be an inventory type application that you're utilizing TracerPlus and ClearStream to feed inventory data into the PTS cloud. It could be an asset tracking type application where we build out the PTS cloud for your asset tracking needs and your workflows, and put that system together, and then also create the RIA endpoint so that the data can move in and out of that PTS cloud. So RIA is where we're going to be focusing next on making it actually more configurable for our users. Because right now, like you see in the diagram here, it's built on top of the PTS cloud. But again, that PTS cloud is kind of put together in working with our customers and our partners as a package and a customized package for whatever application data collection need our customers are looking to spin up in the cloud. Again, inventory, asset tracking, or whatever it may be, inspections. We can put together those clouds, but it's working with the PTS team. So going forward, what we want to work on as our upcoming sort of solutions for RIA is to allow for RIA to actually customize and create these PTS clouds for you. So not only are they just endpoints that allow you to get the data in and out of the cloud, but behind the scenes, it's actually building those cloud objects for you. So if you sign up for a PTS portal, a PTS cloud portal, you can go ahead and sign into the service and start building out that cloud as you need to. And that would be done through a simple to use RIA interface to create those endpoints, which creates the objects in the cloud. So no longer is there requirements for specs or anything like that to put together the PTS cloud. Those can get built out through this user interface and spun up pretty quickly through access to the PTS portal into the portal that Dan showed you. You'll now have the options for these RIA configurations, so you can set up your PTS cloud as you need to. The third bullet point here is actually out-of-the-box third-party integrations with RIA. So RIA right now, we can spin up these endpoints, but we want to make it easier for people to get them into those third-party systems. And common ones that we've seen so far, like NetSuite and Salesforce, or any type of ERP system, will going forward allow those to be configurable options so that the PTS cloud, as you spin it up, you can easily select where you'd like the data to marry up to and outside of the service. So again, NetSuite, hook up this data that's in the PTS cloud directly to NetSuite through the configuration options in the PTS cloud. There's no custom coding or anything like that. It's just spin up the PTS cloud using RIA, configure all of the configurations you want within that PTS cloud, which creates the endpoints into that cloud, and then integrate that into third-party systems. So once we have that kind of base built for this upcoming release for RIA, we then want to actually start moving some of our Windows-based applications into the cloud as well. So you can see the other points I have on this slide here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 is the TracerPlus Designer, or TracerPlus Desktop in the cloud, we might call it. So for you, those of you that are familiar with our TracerPlus Desktop product, it's the Windows-based design tool that allows you to drag and drop mobile forms for iOS, Android, and Windows PCs, and push those forms out to TracerPlus. So if you're creating an inventory application using RFID, you would create that form in TracerPlus Desktop, push it out to an Android RFID scanner, and then you'd have a form for your mobile workers to collect data via RFID and Android and feed that back to a PTS cloud. All of that right now is actually done in a Windows tool that you download to your machine. You configure it on your machine, and then over a local network, you deploy it by scanning a QR code to the handheld. So what we want to do in the next phase of this release is that TracerPlus Desktop Designer in the cloud. So imagine logging into the portal like Dan had showed, setting up your cloud through RIA, and then jumping over to the TracerPlus Desktop Designer to design the mobile forms for entering data into the PTS cloud. So we'll be going to that project next after we build this kind of configurable cloud option through RIA to create that PTS cloud kind of design interface for TracerPlus Desktop. A couple of things that we'll have as initial releases for this, where it's going to be backwards compatible to all of your existing applications. So we're actually looking to be able to take a TracerPlus Desktop project that you may already have, feed it into the TracerPlus Desktop Designer in the cloud, and have it build everything for you automatically. So you don't have to throw away anything that's already been done with TracerPlus Desktop as it is now, and it'll just get converted into the PTS cloud. Another cool thing we want to do with this as well is take those TracerPlus Desktop tools and actually build out the RIA configurations automatically. So again, going back to signing up for the PTS portal, starting up a PTS cloud inside of your portal, taking your TracerPlus Desktop project, upload it to that portal, and it builds out everything for you on the cloud side. So now in TracerPlus, if you scan and perform your inventory, you're feeding that data directly into the PTS cloud with minimal configuration. It's just taking the deployment that you may already have and converting it to a cloud-based tool. Now, I did see, I think, a question pop up. I wanted to mention everything that we do at PTS, we try to keep as flexible as possible in the installation of this environment. But we're looking to create this to be a cloud-first deployment for a lot of cases, but also have compatibility to on-premise solutions. So we're looking to develop this as a suite of software that can both work in the cloud, but also use the legacy applications that we have to work side by side, or create those same deployments for areas where you may need on-premise solutions. So maybe an agency that can't use cloud-based software, they could configure something on-premise, and that's using still our TracerPlus design tools and our ClearStream tools that are for on-premise deployments. So we'll be keeping that as a backwards compatibility option as well for those deployments where they can't use cloud-based software. Point 3 I have here in the next project after TracerPlus Desktop is actually converting our ClearStream configurations into the cloud as well. So again, the point of all of these is we're actually trying to make it, to the point of the webinar, is pull all of these products into our cloud so that it's kind of a one-stop place to go for configuration of the PTS cloud, TracerPlus Desktop as a designer for your mobile forms that get pushed out to iOS, Android, and Windows, and then ClearStream as well for those fixed applications where you have fixed RFID, BLE gateways, and things like that, fixed industrial scanners. That would be done through the ClearStream configuration, but putting that all in the cloud so that you can configure a full solution in this one portal, this one suite that allows you to configure everything and get that data into your PTS cloud and have it customizable to exactly what you're looking to configure.
This is a quick jump in, Howie. Sure. There was a question about mobile device management. So ClearStream readers are probably the most exposed to configuration settings and even firmware updates. So we do have some level of not necessarily mobile device management, but device management. But going further than that, we still might, defer to the experts in true MDM. For readers specifically, that does become important. So we do currently even have that, and we would expect to have that going forward.
Right.
just to get ahead of that question. Also.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit too. What we're managing is your device running ClearStream or TracerPlus more than the device battery health and things like that. We may expose things like that someday, especially for, let's say, MDM light users, but there's no way we're going to try to replace a 42 gears or something like that. We work side by side with them because they're experts at what they do. But you're going to see a lot more from us on the actual health of your mobile or fixed system and how it's working and the data it's moving. That's really what we're focusing on, is giving you the analytics so you can look at whether it's your reseller and you're trying to figure out how you're doing with XYZ customer, if they're actively using it, how many users do they have, are their users actually using the devices? Because that's a big problem in today's world, is actual adoption of the application. So you want to get ahead of that. And a lot of our resellers and our OEM partners, they talk about that. They want to have access to that data so they can stay ahead of the problem. Anyway, all right, I'll let you finish.
Great points and great question. Usually with our webinars, it's a little bit more interactive and going back and forth between like the website and the configuration tools. This one's kind of driven towards the demo of the portal as Dan showed it, but also then just what we're doing going forward. If you can see though in some of our other webinars and some of our products, ClearStream does have a panel for showing reader health, like Brad mentioned. And that will be coming into this ClearStream cloud configuration. So not only will you be able to see your PTS cloud, your TracerPlus desktop designer, but your ClearStream settings and the reader health. So you'll be able to do somewhat of a level of reader management there. And that exists currently in our ClearStream portal, where you can see the status of readers, you can see the firmware levels of the readers, and you can push out updates through the portal. So we have a little bit out already, but again, what we want to do, at least for this webinar here and going forward, is kind of pull those together so it's less disjointed in their different platforms where they are, so that you can see the full picture of your system, both data, design of your devices, and then ClearStream configuration. So I hope that helps a little bit, but that will be part of the ClearStream configuration. Finally, after we have kind of that base of RIA, the TracerPlus desktop designer, cloud configuration, we are looking to build out an ecosystem for this PTS cloud. So shareable solutions, templates, expanded hardware, and third-party integrations are all things that we want to build into this. We've always done this in the past. We want people to be able to sign up for a trial of our software and then get up and running as quickly as possible. We want to see the technology. We want the users to see the technology working as fast as possible. Can the ATR 7000 work perfectly for me for check-in, check-out of this portal, things like that? We want to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to test that. And part of this ecosystem that we want to build is being able to share some of these solutions. So create TracerPlus desktop projects, ClearStream configurations, package those, and then maybe offer them as services to partners that they can go ahead and spin these applications up quickly. As always, expanded hardware. We're looking to add, as we're releasing these products, expanded hardware in TracerPlus and ClearStream, so new devices, and we always get that feedback from our community as to what should be added. And again, third-party integrations. We want to make this platform. We know it's not going to be the end-all, be-all for where the data is residing. It always needs to get someplace else, but we want to add third-party integrations into these PTS portals and PTS Cloud so that you can get the data into other systems. That'll include, again, NetSuite, Salesforce, SAP, but things like Zapier or N8N, different syncing tools, but allow them to hook up pretty quickly and easily to other systems.
Power BI, in case anybody's wondering, was a big request to make that just sort of very intuitive to jump into Power BI and things along those lines. Those are definitely in our sort of in our target.
Yep. So just to recap. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. Joey, sorry.
I was just going to say, recap my stuff here, the slides in general. We went over the history, kind of how we got to where we are, and then upcoming release of this portal that Dan had showed to everyone what the new portal is going to look like. And we're going to build on top of that portal now with bringing in all of our products into the portal so that everything's available, cloud-based, with on-premise still as an option. We always want to offer that. But we wanted to show you how we're kind of bringing these portals together to make it easier for our partners to use, to manage, and our customers to get the flexibility that they need to right out of the box when they sign up for the service. So with that, I don't know if Brad had something to say, but we do have.
Yeah, no, I
questions
thought
for you.
you guys did it was an amazing presentation, and I hopefully those attending see where we're going with this. I mean, user management not always the most exciting thing. Portal's not common, but what we're doing is taking different applications that are really quite different. You have a mobile application generation tool that's licensed per user, and a fixed IoT tool, but they operate in the same environment. So we're bringing them into the same management area, and they'll start picking off features and working together a little bit more because of this portal. So this is step one, and I think many steps to come. Anyway, with that said, we have some good questions here. This is a great question. Would TracerPlus still be maintained in case I want to use the online cloud for TP desktop, but want to keep using my traditional SQL server without having to go through PTS cloud? I'm going to preface this just from our direction has always been to be as backwards compatible as possible and really pay attention to our core users. One of our core users is what we'll call, DMZ zones, those that can't access any outside data. And we have resellers who want to send this directly to their own systems, maybe their in-house SQL databases like this. So I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're going to see is RIA evolve to replace the on-prem capabilities of Connect. So we don't have to maintain two products, but and when this is happening, up to a debate, but as RIA evolves, it's going to have some mapping features that are a little more general and basic that anyone can use. So you don't have to write endpoints that developers want to do, but also you can bring it down locally and make a local connection to something else. And maybe you could do two things: bring it to the cloud and bring it local to an Excel sheet.
Yeah, that's a common request, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a fair way to summarize it. If Connect will be around for a long time for sure, as far as an end of life perspective. But as far as new investment, I don't know that Connect would be the way to go as a product, but as functionality, yeah, of course, you'd expect everything in Connect that exists now would be backwards compatible, or RIA would be backwards compatible. Some on-prem version. On-prem is certainly something we have to consider. We don't even have a choice because there are enough scenarios that require that, whether that's existing customers or security sensitive customers. So those are always things we have to consider.
And that's one of our challenges, and it's a repeated challenge, is we just can't pull it out and put something else in. We have to really consider, and this is one of the challenges with all-in-one, we don't want to cause headaches for our users. And we're there to replace a lot of systems that just change magically without letting the end user know that it's changing, and they get a new release and it no longer supports their operations. And we don't want to become that. That's everything we're not. Basic question: how does the cost structure look for this? So what we're showing today is the all-in-one portal. So basically that exists in trial, but more deeply how it works for TracerPlus and the other products. So TracerPlus can operate on its alone. It is a perpetual or a SaaS model, around $400 per user, let's say, in a list price mode. And ClearStream's about the same per device in a SaaS model. Those products, they can send data directly locally through, like mentioned, the Connect product, and maybe some form of RIA in the future, but also can send it to the cloud. The cloud is more of a customized solution as it's being built out. It's getting a lot more features in it and capabilities, and it's growing quite rapidly. It's one of our top revenue items. And it's because of the flexibility we're building within it and the efficiency we're building in it. And that's really priced per customer deployment. So we have basic clouds that are as little as $6,000 a year. And then we have premier clouds that are a lot more than that because we're supporting worldwide customers who have extreme security requirements, login needs, backup needs, multi-site needs, background checks on all employees, you name it. Matt, it's really become one of the things that we've noticed over the last 6 years since we released the cloud is the amount of admin that's going into certain clouds just to keep customers safe. And we've identified it, and we're paying attention to it. So the cost structure is, again, you could start off as little as $400 a month for a TracerPlus user, or you could have a pretty big system for a worldwide company and deploy, to 500 countries or whatever it is. and then it's going to be a little bit more. So again, it's it's like a Lego system, we like to say sometimes.
Well, that's fairly noteworthy, just because we do have very varied requirements between simple single user, for example, versus global deployments that have pen testing requirements and disaster recovery commitments that we have to make, or even certain levels of insurance we carry. All these things that are very important, that required by them, to be honest, before they can even engage with us. So we have all those sort of available, but to distribute those among all the customers almost has to be like an a la carte sort of thing. So I think that's what Brad's point was.
Yeah, and as we grow, it's more of like Dan said, an a la carte. RTLS, its own package. RIA on the cloud side will be its own package, just because the maintenance and admin that's going to be involved just on the security side of anything we do with those software packages. The webinar is recorded. I think Howie answered this about device management. Again, I think it's more of an environment management we're going to be seeing, and you might see some light MDM. I think a lot of suppliers are doing that now. This is giving the admin of the licenses and that install visibility, but not necessarily where the IT department's going to go see battery health for all his, iOS devices. We don't want to replace that, because, usually we're a piece of a much bigger puzzle in an organization. There's a question about GS1 Verify. So one of the things we've done, and not everybody's familiar with it, but we talk about it quite a bit, is we have a product or an ability to OEM any of our software packages. And we do that quite a bit for vertical solution providers. And then we did it for ourselves a couple times recently. One is GS1 Verify, which is a RFID verification application for suppliers to box stores like Walmart. And that includes a branded cloud and a lockdown application for verifying outgoing shipments, making sure they hit the GS1 standard. And then we have another product called CountQuick, which just introduced RFID and is also coming in Spanish. And that's a basic RFID application for basic inventory audits. And it also has RIA. Both of these have RIA on the other side in our cloud, so you can connect that data to other systems. So another important note. We answered that. I guess, is there any other questions? One question
I see about the customized dashboard.
So, that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, that is a very good one. So we designed these, what I called cards, to be very self-contained and very definable. For the first release, they are not planned to be customizable by you, but there's a follow-up question that somebody else asked about this. One of the visions is that you would be able to define what sort of data set you're going to ask for. So if you wanted to see the current status of your inventory, that's a very reasonable thing to put in a dashboard card, right? That's a snapshot of something in your environment that would make a lot of sense to have in the dashboard. And then likewise with reports, I mentioned those reports. In the past, we had made those reports very sort of hard-coded and relevant, but they weren't super customizable. The new report engine we developed at the first release won't be available to you to customize, but we can, on our side, we can customize it very easily. And then the next step is to make that sort of end user customizable, selecting snippets of data to put into the same report and make it very Excel friendly or whatever else might serve that need for that data. So those dashboards and reports are loosely related. The other thing to marry those two is somebody had requested having a specific report with a preset set of filters available as a dashboard card, which I thought was an excellent idea, right? So you could sort of pre-build a report and then say, show me this report every single day on my dashboard. That I thought was a great idea. So those kind of things will be coming for sure.
Just a couple of questions. One about ServiceNow integration. We currently do integrations with ServiceNow or share data with ServiceNow. It's actually one of the bigger ones, but those are typically custom integrations. I would imagine, like Howie said, the RIA drop-down packages will be available with a basic ServiceNow. SAP, ServiceNow, even NetSuite. We're a NetSuite user, and it's highly customized. So we're going to have almost like a vanilla version of these integrations. But at any point, the RIA package can be set up to integrate with those systems. Now, if you do have a ServiceNow integrator available. Will device management also be included? Device restrictions, setting up profiles that what a user can and can't do with the device, etc. I think that's one of the big things you're going to see a couple ways. One, through our RTLS product being an overlay on it. So think about geofencing. The device can't leave this area, and it's got capabilities to see where it is via RFID or something along those lines, or it's just the BLE on the device, and we echo that it's outside of a zone. But I think also in the profiles that you guys are designing, the profiles will also be available in the TracerPlus setups at some point. So not just on the admin portal, but you'll have user profiles within, and you have those now actually. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Howard.
Yeah, I think you'll see that a little bit more flexible going forward in the PTS cloud when the TracerPlus desktop designer is in there. Dan had briefly mentioned about privileges and roles and things like that within the PTS cloud that are configurable. We're going to tie those into the TracerPlus desktop designer to give you more granular kind of control over what is available to each user in those projects, and also deploy projects to users based on which project they've had assigned to them. So in TracerPlus desktop right now, to do something like that, you'd have to deploy specific projects to specific handhelds. But going forward, that'll be a little bit more controlled at a user level and then down to the role and privilege level as well. So I think you'll see more flexibility there as to how.
For example, you have a staff of warehouse workers, and you have 20 guys responsible for receiving and 20 guys responsible for shipping orders. I think you're suggesting that the guys who log in for receiving would get an appropriate collection app for receiving inventory from a PO versus guys shipping. Is that kind of your point?
Yeah, so when those are deployed or created in TracerPlus desktop, you can pick and choose, which user or which role gets the specific project, right? So there'll be more flexibility there with what the TracerPlus desktop has now.
All right, see if there's any other questions.
Question here, I could guess, can your software application running on a mobile device write custom user data like the item unique ID on the fly to an RFID tag? Yeah, so this is a TracerPlus feature that's configured in TracerPlus desktop. As long as you have a mobile RFID reader, you can configure a RFID tag write button action so that you could write your own data to the tag. So you essentially create a form in TracerPlus desktop that has like a text box for what you'd like to write, and then add a button to the form with the button RFID tag write action, and it'll write to the tag. So you can set that up now. I hope that answers your question. We probably have some KB articles and things.
Well, there might be even sample apps for that. No,
there's probably a sample. Actually, it's a good point to check out. If you go on TracerPlus desktop and click on the samples there, look in the maybe miscellaneous
RFID
section.
Or miscellaneous, yeah.
Yeah, there might be a tag write project you could take.
And if there's not a more appropriate time to say it, we should also plug our YouTube channels. So we have TracerPlus and ClearStream both as YouTube channels with just tons of samples and demos. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a right sample on there, Howie, on the YouTube channel. So it goes through step by step how to do that, and it goes through how to do syncing and all those kind of things. So those are good resources too. I don't remember if we had a shortcut to those mentioned as other resources, but those would definitely be something to think about too.
Good question here. Is TracerPlus ClearStream or the new cloud application FedRAMP compliant? And I can't profess to be a FedRAMP expert. The way we've approached this, since everything's so customizable and how we're running these cloud setups, is we can run on Gov Clouds, and I believe that gives us FedRAMP compliance. TracerPlus and ClearStream, since they're local applications and not technically hosting that data, I don't know how much compliance they have to meet, but I think their channels have to be compliant, which they can be tested. But it's almost per user basis, since it's not a locked application, and not everybody needs it. But we've gone through like major security clearances with our software for major power companies, labs, and such. So if that's something that you're interested in, talk to your account rep, and they can talk to you about the process to go through that. But from our angle, it's really, because it's so designed by the customer, it's really the customer will guide the customer through the compliance of those different certifications.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize it. Our code and our software development lifecycle and all those methodologies that are required for government compliance or security compliances, those are all met. But some of the choices you make about where we're hosting it. You know, the hosting provider then has to be FedRAMP compliant, which we can do, but it's a separate level and it's sort of a separate conversation, as Brad's kind of hinting at. But yeah, that's not an uncommon question, I guess. So yeah, that's a world we can live in.
And then, not that these guys are cringe, but we've also even done local building of solutions, so they're hosted locally on, let's say, an internal cloud. That's something that's possible as well if needed.
Yep.
And some of our customers are, we don't even know what they do with our software. Let's put it that way. All right. Any other last questions?
There's a question here I could pick up. Does this cloud act as a deployment server for devices, or do you still need TracerPlus Desktop on-prem to act as the deploy server? So with the TracerPlus Desktop Designer in the cloud, that's the intention, is to have it deploy directly from the cloud. You know, log in as a specific user with a specific role, you'll get the project that was deployed for that user automatically. With existing PTS clouds, we could actually do this for you too. So if it's something that, you know, if you have a PTS cloud already and you'd like to set it up, we can utilize your PTS cloud to have TracerPlus Desktop projects auto-deployed to the device. So it is something we can currently do, but with the TracerPlus Desktop Designer, as I talked about it earlier, that would be how that would be deployed, is through the cloud as you log in, not from the TracerPlus Desktop.
Yeah, for some of our global type customers, having that deployment option from their PTS cloud has been sort of critical for them, right? Because they have updates or whatever it might be, that they had no other reasonable way, aside from some heavy, you know, mobile device management solution. They had no other way to deploy a simple project update. So they would use our PTS cloud to do that. As the next gen, that how we talked about earlier, that would be built into this, you know, TracerPlus cloud environment design tool. So that, you know, that's definitely on the roadmap too.
All right, folks. I think we'll wrap it up at this point and let it. Oh, there's one more question. And the cloud designer is projected for 2027. I hope it's before the tail end of 2027 and early 2027, but that's the current estimate we have. It's again a pretty substantial project.
Yeah, it's basically RIA first and then Cloud Designer immediately next. I would actually love to be starting Cloud Designer right away, but again, given the guts underneath it, RIA and the portal that we're just finishing up now, that'll come next. So 2027 as a vague number is roughly good. You know, that's an okay estimate.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us. If you have any additional questions that we didn't get to or you think about later, feel free to email us directly. I'm going to encourage everybody to follow us on LinkedIn outside of what we talk about. We have a great team that PTS is assembling. We've added UI designers, we're adding sales engineers, and we're adding development resources over the last year, and some really quality people that are helping us grow the company. You can learn about them on our LinkedIn page. We do little profiles, a little more interesting. We have a pretty good one coming out this quarterly with Anna, who's helped to do a lot of the design for this latest release, all in one, and a little profile on her. So I just go to Portable Technology Solutions on LinkedIn. You can follow us, and they will also tell you about the upcoming webinars and such like that if you're tired of getting an email from us. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy.
Thanks,
have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.